The Fall Classic is here. What's the formula for the Marlins to reach it?
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. You can find me on Twitter at Jeremiah Geiger2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section and share the podcast with your friends. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. And on today's show, it's a live stream. We got a live stream going. What's the formula to reach the World Series? We're going to be reacting to Game 1 between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, and also how these teams reached there, how the Marlins can reach there, implementing some of the same strategies. And I know that sounds crazy because the Dodgers are the super team, the best team money can buy, but I'm really going to look at the Blue Jays in particular. I think there's some lessons that the Marlins can learn. We're also going to talk later in the show about enhancing the fan experience at loanDepot Park. So hop in the comment section. You got a comment, you got a question. This is a live show. It's streamed on YouTube. Of course, it's free and available wherever you get your podcast. I'm going to upload it after the fact. But yeah, we're gonna be here 30 minutes, just talk some baseball, talk some Marlins baseball. How can the Marlins reach the World Series? Because I don't know about you guys, but watching Game 1, watching the atmosphere in Toronto, that makes me want to see the Marlins there. So hop in the chat. Let's discuss. We got Brian saying, we got to spend money, but don't end up like the Mets. That is true. Because here's the thing, right? If the Marlins go out and spend money and it doesn't work, you know what they're going to become? The Angels. Because the Angels have been spending money for years and they've been giving out horrible contracts, and it doesn't work. Mike Trout, the greatest baseball player of our generation, well, maybe Shohei Ohtani, but growing up as a kid, I should say, everybody in Little League wanted to be number 27. That's Mike Trout's number. He's a Hall of Famer. They spent the money in the wrong ways. Broward, what's up? Jeremiah, when the fish going to get to the big one? That's the question that we're going to explore in today's live stream. We're going to take a look at, in my opinion, what the Marlins need to do to give themselves a chance, right? It's all about giving yourself an opportunity. So here's the beautiful thing about sports is that nothing's guaranteed. I understand the Dodgers are going for back-to-back World Series championships, and I understand that we have dynasties in professional sports. The NBA had the Warriors a few years ago. The NFL currently has the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't stand them, by the way. The Major League Baseball, we have the LA Dodgers if they win this series. By the way, I'm hopping on the live stream early because they're getting crushed right now. The Blue Jays are up 11-4. So assuming that score holds, Blue Jays with a 1-0 series lead. Is it just spending money that gets you to the World Series? No. Now that's part of it. That's absolutely part of it. But that's not all that matters. And Brian has a good point that I'm going to bring up here in a second. And this was all about offense for the Toronto Blue Jays. All about offense. I mean, they led the postseason in home runs. Today, how many home runs did they hit already? I mean, it's nuts. They've hit 1, 2, 3 homers already, including a grand slam from Addison Barger. This team has power. And Brian hits the nail on the head. Wish we had an offense like Toronto. You know what I'm convinced of, guys? When it comes to the formula to reach the World Series, the Marlins need offense. Offense. They need bats. Can you imagine the Marlins reaching a level of excellence offensively that the Toronto Blue Jays are displaying? Not just this World Series Game 1, but the entire postseason? I'm not at that point where I can see that being a realistic possibility in 2026. I think there's still work to be done, especially in the power department. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. But I want to talk also about the payroll, because here's the thing. Everybody's going to say a salary cap, a salary floor. The Marlins need a salary cap in order to have a chance. The Marlins need a salary floor to force Bruce to spend. And I would like to see Bruce spend more money, without a doubt. Not for a second will I come on this show and defend the Marlins' not inability, because they have the ability, their choice not to spend money in free agency, their frugalness. And no, frugal is too kind of a word, their cheapness. I'm tired of it. And this offseason is so huge, because if you look at the Toronto Blue Jays, what have they been doing over the last few years? Yes, they have Vladdy Guerrero, all right? And Vladdy is a once in a lifetime find in the international free agency class. He's the son of Vladimir Guerrero Sr. I mean, I'm butchering that name. It's a tongue twister. Anyway, Vladdy, homegrown, yes. Alejandro Kirk, homegrown, yes. Bo Bichette, another son of a major leaguer, homegrown player. But you know who they signed in free agency? George Springer. You know who leads the pitching staff for the Blue Jays? Who started game 1 of the World Series? Trey Yesavage, draft pick. By the way, the Marlins passed on Trey Yesavage a season ago in the draft. So you got to draft well. It's not just about spending money. Oh, here you go. Here you go. Take this contract. Take this contract. No, you have to spend smartly. That includes extending your players, albeit not to the same level as Vladdy's contract, which is a $500 million, whatever it is. It's an insane amount of money that he's getting. By the way, he's earning every penny of it this postseason. But I thought it would be cool to look at the breakdown of how teams are constructed, how postseason teams are constructed. And MajorLeagueBaseball.com did a very good job at this. They went American League and National League and broke each roster down, each postseason team, into free agents, the amount of trade acquisitions, waiver claims, and then the homegrown draft, international, and international free agents. So for the Blue Jays, 8 free agents, 9 trade acquisitions. They had 7 homegrown players, and then two waiver claims. For the Dodgers, 11 free agents. I'm not even going to mention the Dodgers because the Marlins aren't on that level. They'll never be the Dodgers. They won't come close to the Dodgers, ever. But for the Blue Jays, this is a team that won 74 games last year. The Marlins this season finished with a better record than the 2024 Blue Jays. And real quick, Broward, I'll talk about PJ in a second, right after this point. So what does this tell us about the Toronto Blue Jays? Okay, so they were active in free agency. They got 19.1 WAR from their free agents. So yes, you have to spend money. Maybe not on the same level as the Dodgers, but you have to spend money. Because unfortunately, the cruel reality is, when you play the small game, the small ball tactics, I want to, move the runner from first to second and then get him to third, and maybe I get a base hit over in the financial world. Not as an example, Moneyball. It's small ball tactics. They're not swinging for the fences. They're trying to win on the margins, which is great. And I love what Peter Bendix has done. He found Jansen Junk. He found Otto Lopez. That's awesome. But there comes a point when you play the big dogs and you got to match up with the big dogs. There comes a point when you got to say, look, do I want to be the same old Miami Marlins and have the narrative be no free agent wants to play there? There's not a chance of winning. Maybe our window comes open 3 to 4 years. Or do I develop our homegrown talent to a point where we have a core that can compete with the rest of the National League East. And boom, once this core is ready, we go out in free agency and we spend money. And then, as Brian says, we extend our players. We keep them around so our window doesn't close. That's what the Marlins need to be doing. They also need to emphasize power. And watching the Blue Jays, I know the Marlins are a pitching factory, and I've talked about this on the show. I interviewed Mitch McIntyre, a pitching strategist in the Marlins minor league organization. I love pitching. It's one of the strengths of this Marlins organization. But you got to hit. You have to slug. And that's got to be the goal over the next year to 2 years to 3 years for the Marlins, is get back to being an offense that is feared. I'm going to talk about the offense right after this. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. All you do is connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments, and if you're prescribed, you're going to get your treatment shipped discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's all about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. So visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnMLB to take 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnMLB. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnMLB so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. You know what's so cool about the World Series and watching the World Series? It's that I look at the teams over the last few years that have been in the Fall Classic. I look at the Blue Jays, a team that's never been in the World Series in my lifetime. I look at the Arizona Diamondbacks from a couple of years ago. I mean, they were terrible for years. They made the World Series. And I say to myself, this can be possible. This is possible for the Marlins to make it back here for the first time since 2003. But it takes a plan. It takes an approach. And it takes power. Power, power, power. The Blue Jays had dynamite in their bats game one. Dynamite. 3 homers. They got 11 runs up. They're crushing the Dodgers in game one. Why is that? Because they got guys that can flat out slug. Okay, this is a team in Toronto in the 2025 season that was 7th in Major League Baseball in slugging. They hit 191 home runs. By comparison, I'll scroll down for the Marlins, 154 home runs. So they're out homering Miami by 40. If you go to slugging, Toronto's at 7, Miami's at 20th. There's a huge gap there. And as Brian says, they don't strike out. They're an elite team when it comes to plate discipline. Going back to these strikeouts. So Toronto, second least strikeouts in all of Major League Baseball. They don't strike out a lot. We need to do that. We need to find ourselves a core and a offensive lineup that's constructed to damage opposing rotations, to score runs in boatloads. I don't think you can scrape by with 2 to 3 runs a game and rely upon a dominant start from Edward Cabrera. We need sluggers. That's what the Marlins need. We had Giancarlo Stanton. We had Ozuna. We had Yelich. We had Realmuto. Do you guys understand how great that offensive core was? D. Gordon winning a batting title. I mean, he's an afterthought in the 4 players I just mentioned. The best outfield in baseball for years, and you couldn't make the playoffs. And that was because you didn't have the pitching. So now I feel as though the Marlins have built themselves into a pitching factory. They have the pitching depth. So what are they lacking? Oh, they're lacking the sluggers. Now you have Kyle Stowers. Thank God for Kyle Stowers and his development. I'm going to say that right now, because imagine what the Marlins look like without Stowers, without the emergence in the second half of the season from a Jacob Marcy, who looks like a 5-tool player. And now there's a chance we do have the outfield of the future in Marcy, Stowers, and Conine. Although with Griffin Conine, the tools are there. I just got to see him healthy. He's still, 160 at-bats in his major league career? 170, somewhere around there? It's not a ton. So I got to see him healthy for an extended stretch and get extended playing time. Nakib's in the chat. He says, we need a franchise shortstop. Feels like every playoff team has a star there. Great point. And that's what the Marlins have been trying to do. If you've noticed the last couple of off seasons, what have they done? Well, you go to the Jake Berger trade. Max Acosta headlines that trade. You go to the Jesus Luzardo trade. Starlin Caba headlines that trade. You also got Jared Cerna in the Augustine Ramirez Jazz Chisholm trade. You're hoping one of these guys pans out. You need a shortstop. The Dodgers have it. They just moved Mookie Betts to shortstop. I mean, Mookie Betts is a future Hall of Famer. The Blue Jays have Bo Bichette, who a lot of people were out on. Bo Bichette was a disappointing player a couple of seasons ago. How good has Bichette been? And now he's back. He's healthy for the World Series, although I do think he left early. And if someone in the chat, I might have missed it, but I think I saw on Twitter that Bichette left game 1 early. Broward was talking about PJ Morlando, and this ties into the power, right? So I'm down in Arizona. I'm going to Arizona Fall League games, get to interview some players. Going to try to have some more interviews out next week, Wednesday night or Thursday. PJ's struggled in the Arizona Fall League. He has. And the last game I went to, which was this past Wednesday, I can also pull up the numbers here because I don't have them in front of me. It just looked like he was especially struggling against off speed, breaking balls, sliders, changeups. If it wasn't a fastball, his swing just didn't look right. It looked like his timing was off. And I'm really rooting for the guy because he was a super nice guy to talk to. He's got a ton of power. I mean, you go back to watch his home run derby highlights, or at least the numbers and exit velocities he was posting in high school. The dude's really strong. But in the AFL, he's hitting 147, no extra base hits. He struck out 15 times. Quite honestly, in 10 games, he looks overmatched. Now, he's super young, very young, and he's dealt with a lot of injuries. I mean, he's out of high school just 2 years ago, and he's playing against much older competition, just like Starlin Caba. But there is a risk, Brian. There is a risk when it comes to high school players. That's why there's just a risk with everybody, honestly, in the draft. It's about development. It's about, yes, scouting and choosing the right player, but you have to get your player development team in place and feel comfortable about it. And sometimes none of that matters. The guy just might not be good. I'm not saying Morlando. I'm saying any specific player you choose, there's a risk involved. So, I mean, Tyler Kolek, the big, strong right-hander out of Texas, chose 2nd overall. We passed over Schwarber back in 2013. Never pitched an inning in the majors. Had no command. The 2003 and 97 teams had good player development. Here's the difference between those teams and where the Marlins are or want to be, is that I think the 2003, 1997 teams, great. They won the World Series, but what happened after? They immediately tore those teams down. And here's where I think, yes, they won the World Series, but here's where I think they would have continued to do the same thing even if they hadn't won. After 97, let's say they got eliminated in the championship series. They probably do the fire sale anyway. Same with 2003. There was an element of lucking into that position because ownership never had the goal of, let's be consistent competitors. And that's where I think Peter Bendix, he wants to be, is a consistent competitor, not just 1 year, not just 2 years, but it's going to take building an offense. I think they've built the pitching to a very strong standard. Edward Cabrera, Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, untouchable. Yuri's untouchable. One of the best young pitchers. I think he wins a Cy Young in the next 5 years. In the minors, Thomas White. How good is Thomas White? Do yourselves a favor this weekend, guys. Go watch some Thomas White highlights. Go rewatch that 15 strikeout game. He's crazy good. Crazy good. Carson Milbrandt, who's here in the Arizona Fall League. Milbrandt, really, really good arm. It's all about command. So the pitching, it's going to keep churning out arms. So offensively, my question is this. And this is something that I think about with Avi Garcia. And I truly think that Bruce and Jeter felt great about that signing. They thought Avi Garcia was going to come in and be a slugger, and it was a disaster. Just an objective disaster. They signed Soler, injury prone, but it worked out for the most part. Luis Arias traded for him, worked out for the most part. But behind those guys, there really wasn't anything left. So developing homegrown talent is huge because you're not going to spend the money like the Dodgers. You still have to spend in free agency. You're just not going to spend at that level. So let's say you get Agustin Ramirez, Kyle Stowers, Jacob Marcy. Those three guys take another step next season. Those are three cornerstone players. Otto Lopez, 15 homers this past season, gets to 20 homers. Maybe you're set at shortstop. And Starlin Caba, he's still years away. You don't need to rush him through the system. Victor's in the chat. Exactly. The offense is a mix, hoping players reach their potential and also signing guys to fill needs. That's the key. That's the key. It's simple. The formula to not winning the World Series, but putting yourself in a position to win a World Series is you have to be balanced. You can't be strong on one side and then weak on the other. Go back to 2017. Strong offense, weak pitching. Now the Marlins, strong pitching core, offense, there's question marks. This team has to address first base. They have to get third base figured out, and they just have to be more consistent across the board. Broward says, do you think the Avi contract is a reason Bruce doesn't want to spend anymore? Absolutely. I do. I think when that contract went up in the flames and essentially you took $54 million and ripped them up. By the way, the Marlins are still paying Avi Garcia at least $10 million. I think they paid him $12 million this past season, something like that. I mean, you're going to be hesitant to give out big contracts when historically you've never been an owner that hands out big contracts. Now, again, Derek Jeter, there's going to be a lot of complaints about him and his analysis of players and just being in the front office. Very good shortstop, Yankees legend, not somebody you want running your team. I have more faith in Peter Bendix than Derek Jeter. I don't think Peter Bendix signs Avi Garcia. I'm going to leave it at that. So what's Peter Bendix going to do? What's going to be his first marquee signing? Could this team go out and get Josh Naylor? I know Victor, you follow international baseball a lot. Couple of episodes. I talked about Kazuma Okamoto, who I kind of like more than Murakami. I like his profile better. He doesn't strike out. He has a ton of power. He walks a lot. I think that would be a great signing for the Marlins. You need power if you want to reach the World Series. You need to slug. Simple as that. Coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show with your questions. Fire away. Mailbag, live show. We're also going to talk about the Marlins and trying to enhance the fan experience at loanDepot Park. What's that all about? I'm going to discuss all of that right after this. The NFL season is here, the World Series is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, you pick a bet, Put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel's great because it gives you so many ways to play. So if you like betting on football, you can bet some player props, you can bet money lines, set up some parlays. When the games are going in, hit up the live lines. You can do live betting. And then the World Series. You like the Blue Jays? They're underdogs. You like the Dodgers? If you bet the Blue Jays before the series, you're feeling pretty good after what they've been doing in game 1 of this World Series. 11-4. Blue Jays looking good. So, whether you're a casual fan, you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today and get started. And remember, your first $5 bet, if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Shout out to all the everyday listeners out there. Had a great 2025 season. The offseason is in full swing for the Marlins, for the Blue Jays and Dodgers. They're trying to get the ring. That's what I want to do in the next couple of seasons. Who knows? Every offseason, I get optimistic. I get excited because when you're 0-0, when every record is the same, you have hope. And hope is a beautiful thing. So hit me up in the chat. Last segment, we got questions, mailbag here. We're also going to talk about the fan experience that the Marlins are going to try to implement and maybe brainstorm some ideas, what they could do at loanDepot Park. Broward, am I going to a game next season? Yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to plan a trip out to Miami. I got to go back to loanDepot. It was so fun. I went to the Marlins Athletic Series. I wish I was closer. I wish I could go to every Marlins game. If I lived in the area, guys, I'd be going to so many Marlins games. I think loanDepot would get tired of me, but I plan on going. I might go down for spring training. Also, I'm debating that. So we're going to see how my schedule works, but absolutely. The fan experience at loanDepot Park, I found this interesting. So I was reading Fish on First, great website. They're friends of the show, and Eli's article, he said that the Marlins posted a new job posting. They're accepting applications for a new director of fan experience position. So identifying creative, data-driven improvements for park visitors and ensuring product offerings enhance game day and reflect fan culture with the objective of driving deeper engagement, loyalty, and return rates. So essentially, that's a complicated way to say, look, we want fans in the seats. And we are trying to figure out a way to make that possible. I got a news flash for you guys. I got a news flash for Bruce Sherman and the Marlins. It's about winning. You got to win. You got to win number one. Because I think if the Marlins are a 98-win team, at the end of September, they're probably going to have a more invested fan base. That's just my hunch. Victor, great comment here. Miami Live, buy out some of the area around the stadium and make it more walkable stuff to do before games. I could not have said it better. So if you've ever been to Truist Park, okay, they got something called the Chop House, and they have right outside of the stadium restaurants and ice cream shops and bars and candy stores. It's an entire environment that you can walk around for an hour or two before first pitch and just enjoy yourself. It's awesome. I mean, they have that for the concerts there. You got country artists. I mean, it's a great park because of the environment around it. Now, yes, it's a nice stadium. Yeah, I like how it's set up. It's aesthetically pleasing. But what makes Truist Park so special is what's around it. And that's a great point by Victor. If you go to a ballpark and you go outside after it's done and there's nowhere to eat and there's hardly anywhere to park and you look around and there's just some houses and it looks run down and a little bit shabby, which, to be honest with you, that was my impression leaving loanDepot Park, you're not really going to want to come back unless you're a diehard fan. Because the casual baseball fan wants to go to a baseball game for the environment, for the experience. Yes, to see a baseball game, but also, how's the food? How's the food prices? Is there something cool to see in the stadium? So Miami Live, And I think the plan is still in place for that, which is great. And I'm super excited to see how that turns out. But yeah, as Broward says, they need to open up some bars or restaurants across the street. The same thing in New York. I've never been to a game at Yankee Stadium. It's on my bucket list, but they got a whole street filled with people. I mean, people just want to hang out. They want to have fun. DJ in the chat. What up, DJ? He says they need more communication of parking garage rules for high attended games. The last time when I went to try to get the Xavier Cycle bobblehead, it was kind of inconsistent with what was open at times. Yeah, parking's a huge thing. Huge thing. Because if you can't find a way to park and you have to drive 30, 45 minutes, it's already going to be frustrating enough. So having a streamlined parking structure, and these are all things outside of the stadium. And I don't know how much control Bruce has when it comes to organizing, parking and bars and restaurants and stuff like that. But Miami Live is certainly something in the works. And also, look, you're the owner. Enhancing fan experience, that should have been what you're trying to do day one. That should have been on the agenda. So for the Marlins, look, inside the stadium's beautiful. I thought it was very clean. loanDepot is a very clean stadium. There's plenty of food places. I mean, it's aesthetically pleasing. It looks very nice, but it's just kind of there. What stands loanDepot apart from other ballparks? It used to be the home run sculpture. I thought that was really cool as a kid. I loved the home run sculpture. I didn't know why they took it out. And now they have the Norwegian plaza that shoots fireworks. But it's really not that crazy. What I really do like about loanDepot Park is where the Clevelander used to be. And I'm forgetting the name of it. Forgive me. I've only been to loanDepot Park one series. But it felt like a club at field level that you could just watch the game and there's music and DJs. That was awesome. I think that needs to be that needs to be made more aware to visiting fans and to the fan base as a whole. Bullpen Bar and Grill. Absolutely. That place is awesome. Really, really cool. I thought it was also super cool because after the game ended, they had a DJ and dancing and everybody was just having fun. Yeah, next year when I go, I definitely want to sit there at least one game, just experience it. The Bullpen Bar and Grill is super, super cool. And DJ says they did do ads for it all the time during the games this year. See, that's what I don't get to a degree is if you're advertising something, it's got to be more people got to get on board. More people got to start going to these games and enjoy that. In Phoenix, you have the Diamondbacks. They don't have something like that. They have the pool, and the pool's kind of cool, but it's just a swimming pool. It doesn't really stand out. So the Bullpen Bar and Grill is something that they can use to their advantage. I do think that the director of fan experience next season is going to come up with more promotions, and there's going to be a plan in place. I'm excited to see what happens. I really am, because that is a super positive aspect of loanDepot Park. Got a couple minutes left before we'll wrap up the show. Any last mailbag questions, submit in the chat. Of course, the Blue Jays win game 1, 11-4, crushing the Dodgers. And I picked the Blue Jays to win in 7 games. I was on MLB Squad Show, the Locked On Squad Show, and I said, I think the Blue Jays shocked the world. I think their offense is just so good. So good. Gloria says, you go to 30 games per season. I have to say the rotation of ushers, guards, and guides are so much that no one is well trained. Very poor customer service. See, I didn't have that same experience, Gloria. I really didn't. I thought everybody was nice and I mean, they all did their job. I know the team store was cool. They had plenty of stuff. They had a couple team stores there, and you like to see that. You like to see the ability to go out and get some new merch. For example, when the new City Connects dropped, and that's where I got this hat, the 305. That was where I got it. Was from the team store. As soon as the team store opened, they had all of this. the new merchandise in the stores. So that was pretty cool to see. The Marlins, I think they're at a point this offseason where we're antsy. We're anticipating some moves. You guys are excited. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what this team does. They're going to have to do something to give fans a reason to come to the games next season. They got to start out hot. In 2026, they got to start winning. If this team, imagine this team 20-10 to start the year. Oh man, I'm going to be pumped. I'm going to be excited. And I guarantee you, the diehard fans out there, they're going to say, hey, let's go to the game, to their friend. And their casual baseball friend's going to say, yeah, I'll go. Oh, this is pretty cool. They're going to see a Marlins win. They're going to want to come back because ultimately it comes down to winning. Have to build trust with the fan base. Don't drop the ball. Can't do it, Bendix. This is your time. I believe in you, but this is your moment. This offseason is going to make or break the 2026 season. It really is. What you do now is going to affect what happens next year. 17-game win improvement. I say it a lot. Keep improving. You have a young core in place. The goal is to reach the World Series one day with Kyle Stowers, Augustine Ramirez. It can happen if you supplement the roster and you keep the farm system churning. I'm excited for the future of this organization. That's going to do it for today's live stream. Remember, you can find Locked On Marlins wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and you know the words, let's go fish.